Thanks, Tara. It's 11 minutes after 7. A program that stations police officers in Edmonton Catholic schools will continue. This comes after an 18-month review into the School Resource Officer Initiative, launched after concerns that the program disproportionately impacts racialized students. Sandra Bucerius is one of the researchers who led the study. She's a professor of sociology and criminology at the University of Alberta and director of the Centre for Criminological Research at the U of A. Good morning, Sandra.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So what were the key findings of your research into Edmonton Catholic School Resources Officer Program, often referred as SROs?
Yeah, so the key takeaways from our study was that the program is largely viewed positively by staff, students, caregivers, as well as administrators and SROs, although each of these groups also had recommendations for improvements. And maybe I should first back off and tell you a little bit about what we actually did to study the program. And so we essentially interviewed all principals and vice principals and other school administrators in one-on-one interviews. We also interviewed the SROs stationed in the schools of the Edmonton Catholic School District. And then we did focus groups with teachers, students, and parents and caregivers. And for the students and caregivers, we put out 2 calls for participation. One was open to the entire student and caregiver population within ECSD. And one was specifically for students and caregivers who identify as Black, Indigenous, or other persons of color, or 2 as LGBTQ+. And these interviews and focus groups allowed us to get a deep sense of what these different stakeholders were thinking about the program, the benefits and weaknesses, and allowed us to design a survey that then went out to the entire district, to all students, parents and caregivers and teachers at schools with SROs. And the survey had a very high participation rate. It was filled in by 617 staff, by 736 parents and caregivers, and by 5,577 students.
Wow.
Which makes this an extremely unique study because of its high response rate and our ability to conduct a survey in the entire school district. And lastly, we also analyzed over 2,295 ECSD records on SRO-related incidents that contained documented incidents from 2010 to 2021.
Now, was there anything that surprised you and your research colleagues?
Yes, for sure. So we were most surprised about the extremely low number of participants on the district-wide survey. Remember, this went out to was filled out by over 5,500 students. And it was an extremely low number of participants who wanted the program to be discontinued. Among the student population, it was only 1.6%. And those 1.6% varied little by demographic characteristic, including age, gender, level of education, sexual orientation, disability status, religion, and racial background. So that most certainly surprised us. Another finding that was a little bit of a surprise to us was that those with direct experience with the SRO program, so those who have directly interacted with the SROs, are more likely to say that they want the program to stay, whereas those who do not have any experience, any personal experience, are more likely to say that they do not know whether they want the program to be continued. We were also surprised to see that very few Black and Indigenous parents want to see the SRO program terminated. In total, it was only 2.2% of all parents that wanted to see the program terminated. And again, there were no differences with respect to demographic characteristics, including race. However, Black and Indigenous parents and students are more likely to feel that the program requires improvement.
What kind of improvement would they be looking for if it was articulated?
Yeah, so One request for improvement that came directly from parents and students. I will probably start with the students. The students would like to see the SROs to be involved in all activities around the school, such as field trips and classroom visits, so that all students can ask questions and build rapport. Students and caregivers are also hoping that SROs are willing to discuss critical questions about policing with students, such as racial profiling or police violence. So they want an SRO who's open to discuss these issues. Another recommendation or improvement that they would like to see that was also articulated by school administrators is that the schools should have more input into ensuring that a specific SRO is a good fit for a particular school community, and there should be a better process in place in case an SRO is not a good fit, that person can be exchanged quickly. And a key recommendation by both parents and students, but also teachers, was that they are hoping for more communication about the program and its intents, so that everyone in the school community is aware why the program is in place and what the goals of the program are. And then lastly, all of the stakeholders, students, parents, and teachers, would like to see transparency about all SRO interactions, which is essentially key, so that there's more transparency about what SROs do, and especially when situations arise where students are contacted by the SRO, what sort of results come out of these interactions. So there should be more transparency around that.
Well, Sandra, we could only lightly touch on this, of course, with the time we have here. We appreciate you joining us to go through it. Thanks very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Sandra Bucerius is a professor of sociology and criminology and director of the criminological research at the U of A. Catholic School Board has accepted the researchers' recommendations, but hasn't said when the district will make the changes. The Edmonton Public School District paused its SRO program in 2020 and is conducting its own review led by the same group of researchers, and that report is expected later this year.